What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty, and welcome to another amazing video. You can follow me on Patreon for exclusive stories. 6DW Chapter 74 Aunt Kaido arrives. 4 emperors together. Xia En. Kaido will challenge me one-on-one. Kaido, Big Mom and other cadres chased after them. All of them were extremely arrogant, even threatening to tell the marine executives not to run away. But they want to join the battlefield, which will make the whole world panic. Kaido, Big Mom. The most vicious sea emperor, Katakuri and these cadres are all full of momentum. The huge pressure not only puts on naval headquarters, but also makes countless people tremble. My god. How did this happen? Kaido, how did Big Mom come? 4 emperors gathered. How is this possible? Marine, this is really a desperate situation. The people were so frightened that they lost their voices and their pupils were incomparable. The combination of the Revolutionary Army and Whitebeard, Redhead and others has already caused Marine to retreat steadily. Now that these people are added, everyone can see what kind of desperation Marine is facing. Marine, now we are really facing the crisis of destruction. Marineford. Akainu was furious immediately. Sengoku, Garp, Aokiji, Kizaru and others all changed their faces. Their faces were extremely gloomy. This is really going to happen. Garp looked at Kaido, Big Mom, who came from the sky, very solemn. Our current strength is not enough to deal with the 4 emperors. Contact Marijoy immediately for support. Granny Crane reacted extremely quickly, and immediately asked the communication soldier who was still at a loss behind him to take out the phone bug. In the current situation, only Marijoy can save it. At this time, Sengoku gritted his teeth tightly and clenched his fist. These bastards. Whitebeard, the Redhead, and the Revolutionary Army are already enemies. Now that the 4 emperors have gathered together with the Revolutionary Army, it is simply gathering all the enemies of Marine in the world. And after a fierce battle, how much strength do the soldiers have against the 4 emperors who joined in? Dilemma. A complete dilemma. Indeed, the Marines on the square even timidly held their weapons and trembled, stepped back unconsciously, and their eyes were terrified. 4 emperors. 4 emperors gather. How should we fight? The fight just now was already a battle against monsters. If not for the fact that Marine had Xia En's blood shadow participating in the battle, they would have all resisted. But now, no matter how you look at it or think about it, your side has no chance of winning. The gears of fate have changed direction. Xia En was also surprised that Kaido and Big Mom managed to escape the surveillance of the world government and Marine and came to the Marineford battlefield. This is very unlikely to happen, but now it is happening in front of us, and Kaido must have been planning this day. However, the arrival of the 4 emperors did make Xia En look serious and less relaxed than before. After all, these are the 4 strongest pirate groups in the world. Any one of them is no small matter, let alone appearing together in Marineford. Even the 5 elders and Gellinger and Marijoy couldn't sit still when they met. They stood up suddenly, and their expressions changed drastically. Kaido. Big Mom actually broke into the battlefield. How could such a big mistake happen? There was dissatisfaction with the intelligence department in Sa Tansheng's eyes, and he couldn't help shouting. The original plan was to attack Whitebeard. The appearance of the Revolutionary Army was already an accident, so there was no increase in combat power. 4 emperors teamed up, enough to break naval headquarters in a short time. It's beyond what Marine can handle, and we need support. Let Kong go now. Maybe we'll have one too. The rest of the 5 elders said one by one, and their eyes were fixed on Kaido and Big Mom who appeared in the live broadcast. They are high above and look down on the human beings below, but those with great strength are exceptions. Pirates 4 emperors, each of which makes the 5 elders feel jealous. How can the 4 collectively appear together with the Revolutionary Army to sit firmly on the Diayutai? But at this time, Gellinger, who was also shocked, suddenly smiled. Or don't be so eager, you can see how Xia En handles it first. Gellinger is always paying attention to Xia En, and he is very concerned about this guy who kills celestial dragons. It's also because Geringer doesn't care about war at all, he only cares about Xia En. Now is not the time for reckoning. 5 elders frowned slightly. His first reaction was not to approve of Gellinger's proposal. If it really can't bear it and Marineford is destroyed, the credibility of the world government will fall to the bottom, and there will be no remedy after the event. I see. Gellinger nodded slightly, then pointed to Xia En on the live broadcast screen and said, he is very calm, although he doesn't look so relaxed. Blood Shadow is not simple. So far, Blood Shadow has not really displayed its full strength. Maybe we can first see what kind of power is secretly hidden by Blood Shadow Admiral. After saying these words, the 5 elders let go of their frowns and suddenly understood what Gellinger meant. Such a powerful talent in Xia En may be hiding some secrets, and even assassinate celestial dragons. Look again, maybe you can see what the kid is up to. Then get ready first. Finally, 5 elders accepted Gellinger Street's suggestion. However, at this time on the battlefield, Kaido and Big Mom aggressively challenged Marine, threatening to destroy naval headquarters, and did not spare anyone. This made Akainu, Sengoku and others very annoyed, and they just wanted to say something. I only heard that the red-haired Shanks is also extremely disgusted with Kaido, and expressed to everyone in Marine. They're them, and we are us. Our purpose is only to save people. Let them go and we will evacuate them. After that, we have nothing to do with us and we will not participate. Shank's remarks, in addition to disregarding the relationship with Kaido and others, also made another request. Let go. Whitebeard was even more succinct, looking directly at Sengoku and Xia En and shouting. If it wasn't for the wrong occasion, Kaido would have directly fought against Marine. Whitebeard was not happy about it. Kaido and Big Mom were taken aback for a moment, but they didn't expect the red hair, Whitebeard and others to have any intention of fighting. I have already hit here, tell them to let them go and stop fighting. HMPH. These cowardly fellows, why don't you let them go at such a good opportunity, can't you just grab them? But once Whitebeard and the Redheads withdraw, Kaido will not have the strength to take over the battlefield and deal with the shadow of Marine Admiral and Shaen En. But at this moment, it depends on what choice Marine will make. People all over the world did not expect the situation to develop like this, and swallowed their throats a little nervously. They don't want Marine to surrender, but the enemy's strength is hopeless. What the people could still think of was what Shaen En had just said about Infinite Guild and FABU bowing. So, will Marine really choose to let him go? Sengoku is very complicated at the moment. Facing a large number of enemies, even his Buddha Sengoku feels powerless. With the surging pirates, the 4 emperors and the main force of the Revolutionary Army, Marine has almost no chance of winning against them, and the most important thing is that nothing happens to Shaen En. If we lose today, it will only be a temporary loss for Marine. In the future, Shaen En will definitely have a stronger ability to put down the Great Pirate Era. After many considerations, Sengoku was indeed moved and immediately wanted to order someone to shut down the live broadcast. As a result, at this time, Shaen En stood up, looked much more serious, and shouted loudly, "Let him go, impossible." Shaen En. Sengoku was stunned for a moment, he didn't expect Shaen En to want to continue fighting. Why would he do this? Isn't the difference in strength not obvious enough? If the fight continues, it will only cause greater casualties to Marineford. Others were also surprised by Shaen En's response. Can this Blood Shadow Admiral really not see the situation clearly? That's the 4 emperors and the Revolutionary Army. Marine's current military strength can no longer handle it. I will be killed by pirates, we can't continue. This situation, people looked at the screen, covering their mouths in despair, no matter whether Shaen En persisted or not. In this public execution that everyone has been waiting for, the showdown between Marine and the pirates will fail. In the square, Doflamingo, Eagle Eye and even Hancock and others looked up at Shaen En with extremely surprised expressions. Is he really crazy? In Mihawk's eyes, Shaen En is almost as calm as before. This kid has a stronger mind than those Marines who claim to be righteous. Looking for death, the current enemy Marine can't stop him. Doflamingo sneered, but was actually a little excited. Maybe we can see Shaen En die on the spot today. 4 emperors, the Revolutionary Army, there are so many strong men, they were already at a disadvantage and hopeless before. Now, even if Marine is all out and Shadow is there, it is impossible to defeat them. 0. Ask for flowers. Hancock's tone was very positive, but also a little melancholy. Who would have thought that Marine would face such a situation today? Indeed, the current Marines are horrified to see the hellish atmosphere coming, and Kaido_Bigram, who threatens to destroy Marineford. With the addition of Whitebeard, Dragon, and Shanks on the other side, it can be said that the fighting spirit has declined sharply. Even if Shaen En shouted not to let anyone go and not to stop fighting, they were no longer as passionate as before. The only person present who was still willing to fight to the death was probably Akainu Sakazuki, but even he could only glare at Kaido at the moment and did not act impulsively. On the current battlefield, Kaido and Big Mom did not take the initiative to attack. Instead, they looked at the Marine executives on the execution platform in a joking manner. The coalition forces led by Whitebeard, Red Hair, and Dragon also took this opportunity to take a breath and wait for Marine Marshal Sengoku's response. After all, Shaen En is just an admiral, and there is no way he can persevere if he wants to fight alone. Sengoku was indeed a little hesitant at the moment, or in other words, Shaen En had created many miracles, and he was not sure what Shaen En was thinking. Brother, stop fighting. Even if Marijoy sends someone here, he can't withstand the current situation. Kizaru couldn't help but feel anxious and reminded Shaen En in a low voice. There is no need to worry about leaving Green Hills without firewood. His thoughts are the same as those of Sengoku and others. As long as you Shaen En are fine, Marine's shame and failure today will be taken back. No, brother, if we don't fight today, both the Infinite Guild and Marine will lose their prestige. Instead of preparing for the worst, it won't make life easier for the pirates. Shaen En's eyes were firm and she still refused to persuade. What he said made Akainu couldn't help but admire. The entire Marine does not have Shaen En's persistence in justice. Immediately, my heart was definitely on Shaen En's side and I would fight to the death. However, Shaen En's plan goes far beyond adhering to principles and not letting people go. He raised his head and faced Kaido directly, provoking. Since we are here, get out of the way. I will challenge you Kaido to a one-on-one challenge. One-on-one? Kaido hearing this, he was taken aback. The rest of the people looked at Shaen En in surprise and confusion. Are you kidding? With your Blood Shadow fruit ability, Who would dare to challenge you in a duel? That's not a complete joke, after all. The Blood Shadow ability is also Shaw En's own strength. If you don't use Blood Shadow, just me. Seeing Kaido's confused expression, Shaw En raised her fist and grinned. This kind of smile is undoubtedly a kind of naked contempt in Kaido's view. But the eyes of Long, Whitebeard, Hongfa and others also change. I wonder what Shaw En is up to. She even proposed to challenge Kaido in a duel without using Blood Shadow. In an instant, Marineford's pirates and the entire revolutionary army looked at Shaw En in shock, confused. People watching the live broadcast swallowed their throats and did not understand Shaw En's behavior. Don't you know? Kaido is known as the strongest creature, with thick blood and strong strength, immune to death. Moreover, how strong can Shaw En's own strength be when she is only 8 years old? Sengoku, Garp, Granny He, San Admiral and others all had their expressions changed drastically, and they shouted, "No way Shaw En. Could it be that this kid wants to use his own life to resolve Marineford's crisis? After all, Shaw En herself has no strength, so she is seeking death." Confused, this was the first thought in Sengoku's mind. Kizaru was even more confused, thinking that he could no longer let his brother act like this, so he hurried over to persuade him. As a result, Shaw En had already expected that the most excited person must be Kizaru, and immediately whispered something to him, not knowing what he said. Immediately, although there was still worry on Kizaru's face, he backed away with hesitation and doubt in his heart, not stopping Shaw En. When Sengoku saw the actions between Kizaru and Shaw En, he understood that this was not an act of committing suicide, and immediately gave up the idea of persuading him. He still chose to believe Shaw En, HMPH, is it so obvious? Beckman felt that Shaw En's move was very strange, but he didn't expect such a situation. How would Shaw En complete the duel? There's no way he could die so easily, maybe we can wait and see. Shanks also nodded solemnly, not daring to underestimate Shaw En's behavior, so he suggested to Whitebeard. Whitebeard stared at various unexpected Shaw En and nodded one silently. The fierce battle so far can be said to be a turning point. It doesn't hurt to let Kaido and the others consume Shaw En. After they take a breath, they will continue to force Marine to compromise. Chapter 75. The familiar aura shocked the world. Roger, the Pirate King, is resurrected? He has a problem. No one is stupid enough to die. Katakuri and the others could also see the problem, and they were very puzzled. What means does Shaw En have to deal with Kaido? It can't really be to die in order to relieve the crisis of Marine being besieged, right? On the contrary, it was Big Mom, who knew something was wrong but still laughed loudly, with the intention of being angry, and said bluntly to Kaido, "I was provoked by an 8-year-old child, Kaido. The conspiracy is not right, so what? Crisis is always accompanied by opportunity. If Shaw En can really be killed, no matter what the risk is, Bignum thinks it is worth it." As he spoke, Kaido transformed into a human form, holding a mace and glaring at Big Mom, about to say something. "Master Kaido. He dares to yell at you directly. I'm afraid there are other plots." Jin flew to Kaido's side, still looking suspiciously at Shaw En on the platform with her head held high. "Something is wrong. Something is wrong. Want to fight Kaido-sama one-on-one without relying on the Blood Shadow ability? Isn't this a joke?" But Shaw En is obviously not a mindless character since his debut. There must be something unknown. Just to be on the safe side, Jin resolutely advised Kaido, wanting to remind him. Of course, Kaido is not brainless, but with confidence in his own strength and the majesty of being 4 emperors, how can he be afraid of Shaw En, a guy who is weak in himself? But right now, Shaw En glanced at the red-haired, Whitebeard side, and found that they were all very calm, obviously wanting to see how he would fight with the new Kaido, Big Mom. But this is also the effect Shaw En wanted, so he said again, "What, Kaido, do you need to consider the 350 against me?" The tone is blatantly provocative. Jin, Katakuri and the others cried out in their hearts that it was terrible, but Big MBH laughed even louder. Kaido has a temperamental personality. How can he endure Shaw En's provocation? Especially when he provocatively speaks out again, he will be furious immediately. With one stroke of the mace, crackling lightning burst out, and the whole person went straight to Shaw En like a cannonball. "Don't be so arrogant, boy." He dared to yell without his own strength. One more move. Thunder 8 trigrams jumped up high and roared angrily. Seeing this, everyone looked solemnly, but at this moment, the 6 blood shadows on the square and the Golden Lion blood shadow in midair really didn't move. Not good. Shaw En is serious. Akainu's expression changed immediately. Lava gushed out of his hands. Kizaru and Aokiji are also on Shaw En's side. How can Shaw En confront Kaido head-on, and they want to block it immediately? As a result, Shaw En took the initiative to move forward, and signaled to the 3rd Admiral to let people go first, don't worry. At the same time, Garp was also in a hurry, and Marine executives wanted to stop Kaido almost at the same time. Even Sengoku on the top of the execution platform called out to several people, and stopped Garp who wanted to make a move. "We should trust Shaw En. You are crazy. How can Shaw En stop Kaido without his own strength?" Garp panicked immediately, but was blocked by Sengoku for a while, but lost the best chance of rescue. At this time, Kaido was approaching constantly, and seeing that a stick was about to hit Shaen En directly, everyone couldn't help but hold their breath. Kaido's speed is still too fast, so fast that everyone who pays attention feels suffocated. The ferocious haki, the mighty thunder, as if the sky is darkening at this moment. Can't stop. Can't stop. Shaen En can't stop. Even if he has the strength, he may not be able to stop it. Kizaru regretted it instantly, regretting why Shaen En still messed around. Hey, I'm dead. Shaen En. Doflamingo felt great at this moment, being able to witness Shaen En die under Kaido's 8 fasts. Kaido was getting closer to Shaen En with a ferocious expression in the corners of his mouth grinning. He dared to let himself approach such a distance directly, and he also felt that Shaen En had no chance. But at this moment, suddenly, Rayleigh's eyes widened suddenly on the execution platform, and an unbelievable expression appeared at this moment. This is. A familiar aura made Rayleigh couldn't help pulling the chain forward a little, poking his head out to look at Shaen En on the platform. It can't be wrong. It can't be wrong. Why? Why does that kid have his breath on him? At this moment, Rayleigh was very shocked. God was shocked. Sengoku noticed Rayleigh's strangeness, but Shaen En didn't look at the crisis, and the next moment the same eyes widened. However, not only Sengoku and Rayleigh, but even Garp, Whitebeard, Redhead and others below all changed their expressions dramatically. Impossible. Impossible. These remnants of the old era roared in their hearts instantly. Before they had time to utter a cry of surprise, a wave of Conqueror's haki that was familiar to them soared into the sky from behind Shaen En. Hollow to a solid figure appeared behind Shaen En. Afterwards, everyone was shocked by the sound of God avoid. Kaido couldn't even react for a while, only to see the figure suddenly appearing behind Shaen En draw his sword, Lien Duan. All in one go, black and red, flashing Conqueror's lightning slash instantly crossed the distance between him and Shaen En, and by the time he reacted, the ferocious power was already in sight. At the first moment, Kaido's reaction was that Shaen En was cheating. The one who can't use the Blood Shadow is obviously not the Sha people. What else can it be besides the Blood Shadow? Moreover, God avoids this trick. Kaido is familiar with it, after all, he has fought against the Red Hair so many times. In the current situation, the thundering 8 trigrams hitting Shaen En didn't even have time to turn around, and Kaido was hit hard. Zzz. The sword light slashed on Kaido's body, and the red and black lightning exploded crazily. Under the powerful impact, Kaido had no idea that this blow would have such terrifying power, and his eyes almost popped out in an instant. The momentum of the Thunderbolt's attack was defeated, and in less than 2 seconds, he couldn't stand it and was directly knocked into the air, and he spat out a big mouthful of blood. Boom. Kaido's unusually strong body knocked down a corner of the naval headquarters fortress, and his body slid on the ground to draw a ditch, leading directly to the town buildings inside. At the same time, Kizaru's blood shadow and Kizaru's real body turned into light almost at the same time, using a container to catch all the blood spit out by Kaido, and none of the 10 drops fell. At this time, the Marines in the square, the pirates and even the Revolutionary Army, audiences all over the world could see clearly what happened just now. The entire audience was silent for an instant, not to mention the square. The whole world was strangely quiet at this moment, and after a long while, someone swallowed their throat and uttered an unbelievable name with difficulty. Gordy. Roger. Standing in front of Shaen En was not a figure that was completely red, as if made of blood-red materials, but a muscular man in a dark red captain's coat, pink shirt, and bare chest. With a black beard that curves upwards, Haki's eyes make him look like he's in the prime of his life. What he holds in his hand is a precious sword with a guard, and it is also one of the supreme sharp swords known to many people, named Ace. All kinds of characteristics are combined, and the familiar Haki moves that are reminiscent of the old days. Shanks was the first to cry, his hands were trembling, and he shouted in disbelief and joy, Captain Roger. The whole world is all too familiar, possesses countless wealth, fame, and power in the world, and is also the first One Piece. A real man of legend, Goldie Roger. Everyone, whether it is the 5 elders, or the deeper existence of Marijoy, or the people around the world recognized Roger at this moment. They were all shocked to the point of speechlessness, and their pupils quaked. How is it possible? How is it possible? Am I dazzled? One Piece. Why did he appear here? He's dead, for 20 years, impossible. Audiences all over the world began to howl in various ways, doubting life and the world. Some people even feel like they are dreaming. This is simply impossible. As we all know, One Piece is dead, executed by Marine, witnessed by the whole world in Logue Town. But now, he unexpectedly appeared, and he still appeared behind Shaen En, and shot Kaido, one of the 4 emperors, to fly and vomit blood. However, Rayleigh on the execution platform was crazy, shouting with tears, it's you, brother. He has already noticed that Roger's resurrection is due to Shaen En's method, and no one can understand why it is not in the Blood Shadow state. But this is One Piece. The man who can make the world government desperately want to destroy the enemy with the most dangerous ability in the world. Roger. How could it be him? 5 elders. Saint Gellinger stood up suddenly at this moment, trembling all over. Not because of fear, but because it was too shocking, too incredible. Resurrection is enough for heaven-defying, but whether 5 elders, Saint Gellinger, or whoever is resurrected, Roger's resurrection is unacceptable. After a brief shock, everyone in the world who watched the live broadcast also reacted. It must be Xia En. Roger is dead for a long time, how could he be resurrected? It must be the ability of Blood Shadow Admiral. The Blood Shadow Fruit ability is the strongest and most terrifying ability in the world. Even the dead can be resurrected. At this moment, the people who gradually began to understand were even more shocked, but the difference is that for ordinary people, a character like Roger is a disaster and the source of all miserable lives. He has benefited many people, but also caused many people to fall into the disadvantages of the Great Pirate Era, and caused many ordinary people to be displaced and their wives to be separated. On the square, the Marine soldiers were also deeply shocked. Because Roger appeared so clearly in front of everyone, even the horrifying hockey in the air hadn't dissipated yet. Xia En, what the hell did you do? Sengoku's heart trembled when he saw Roger's resurrection instead of the Blood Shadow. This matter is really too big, so big that it is no longer a situation that he, a marshal, can grasp. And does Xia En's revived Roger have real thinking? If so, wouldn't Xia En become the target of public criticism? For a moment, Sengoku's heart was extremely shocked, but at the same time extremely worried and uneasy. But generally speaking, Xia En's release of Roger's combat power can indeed relieve Marine's current desperate situation. You know, the combination of Garp and Roger back then was able to destroy the strength of Rock's pirate. On the other hand, Garp's expression is not inferior to Sengoku's, and he is talking about the familiar figure in front of him, Roger. Aokiji, Akainu and other soldiers who were in a collective daze looked incomparably shocked. Xia En, I really want to heaven defying, he actually resurrected Roger. Creating blood shadows and resurrecting people, this is too outrageous. Although Roger's figure is not that of a blood shadow, it can be seen that it is similar to a blood shadow. The soldiers swallowed their throats and looked at the smiling Xia En on the platform like they were looking up to God. This kind of ability, what else can it be if it is not a god? However, in the eyes of the celestial dragons who claim to be descendants of gods, Xia En's act of resurrecting Roger is a death penalty. 5 Elders was shocked, his expression gradually became ferocious, and the abilities on his body even gave off a black aura uncontrollably. He actually brought Roger back to life. Roger must not appear in this era. Roger, who has been on the final island, knows too much, and even has the ability to subvert everything. His threat 0.7 is far greater than Rayleigh. Now it seems that Xia En is the biggest enemy of celestial dragons in the past 800 years. Eternal life, resurrection. No, this little guy must die. 5 Elders couldn't restrain their killing intent at all, making the whole power circle extremely cold. Regardless of whether this Roger is conscious or not, celestial dragons does not allow the ability to revive. Otherwise, when Xia En cannot be controlled, will he resurrect all the enemies of celestial dragons in the past? What a catastrophe that would be for Marijoy, Galinger Street. As he said that, Saint Vouchery, the martial god of justice, looked at him, and the murderous intent in his eyes already explained everything. Xia En must be eradicated. Enemies and secrets from the past 800 years are not allowed to appear. However, at this time, Xia En didn't know that after resurrecting Roger, the Holy Land Marijoy was killed. He was laughing straight at Big Mom, who was so shocked that he opened his mouth wide and couldn't speak for a long time. Impossible. Impossible. How can you resurrect a person whose soul has been obliterated? Roger, it's me. I'm Lin. Big Mom is extremely complicated, feeling the fantasy and trying to call Roger at the same time. Hey, Lin? Roger held the famous knife ace, tilted his head, and seemed to remember something. Xia En did not hide anything but said, don't bother, he is conscious, but not much. This is similar to the loss of consciousness after the transformation of the tyrant bear. After all, Roger has been dead for a long time, and his soul has not fully recovered, so it is almost impossible to be reunited. He will only follow orders from Xia En. Chapter 76 Roger's strength at the pinnacle. One person can easily win 2 kings? How dare you lie to me, and you let Blood Shadow take action? At this time, a green dragon flew out from the ruins of the town in embarrassment, its eyes full of fear and anger. He didn't even see who the person who took action just now was, he just thought it was Xia En's Blood Shadow. Kaido was about to say something, but in the blink of an eye he saw the shocked and dumbfounded expression of the entire square, which was very strange. Looking at Whitebeard, the 2 red-haired people, the shocked and complicated expressions on their faces made Kaido confused. What's going on with these 2 guys? Why are they so expressive when you see me being beaten? Kaido couldn't help but murmur, and continued to turn his head. The person he glanced at Marine was even more strange. There were no more fights on the entire battlefield. The Marine pirates stood clearly together. They were all stunned and shocked, with various surprises. Some of them were even trembling. The Shichibukai were looking in one direction for a long time without moving, and Doflamingo's face was extremely ugly. When Kaido saw this, he immediately felt bad. The dull pain in his body also made him react a little. It might not be easy to knock away his own blood shadow. So following Sengoku, Whitebeard and others, everyone looked towards the execution platform with unified gaze. Old woman, you. Kaido saw Big Mom standing on the thundercloud, her shoulders trembling slightly. Then he finally saw clearly the platform under the execution platform and Roger standing in front of Xia En. I didn't see it clearly because I was too fast before, but now, Kaido can see it especially clearly. That outfit and weapons still appear countless times in newspapers, albums, and books. Goldie Roger. You. No, it's impossible. Roger, why are you here? You're already dead. It was so unbelievable that Kaido was shocked. His eyes were bigger than anyone else's and he couldn't help but retreat slightly. Long before he became famous, Roger had defeated all the opponents of the Grand Line and ascended to the throne of One Piece. The world is open. Even Kaido couldn't calm down with such a presence, and he even understood who the person who had just knocked him away was. And this is not O2 Xia En's blood shadow. It doesn't have that kind of blood red all over the body, and it doesn't have the weird feeling of the blood shadow. It is a real body. I said no blood shadow, Kaido. This is the peerless strongman I revived with my power. You can admit defeat in this duel. Xia En said with a smile. Kaido did not refute this time, but gritted his teeth with a fierce look in his eyes. The pain from the blow just now is still on his body, let alone seeing the revived Roger with his own eyes. Kaido has to be cautious. Okay, it's almost time to play, it's time to proceed. Xia En met Kaido's fierce look without fear and grinned. Immediately when he raised his hand, including the golden lion blood shadow in the sky, under the power of lion fruit, all 7 blood shadows rose into the sky. Seeing the peerless power that Xia En possessed, everyone was shocked. The eyes of the Marines gradually lit up with hope, but the pirates felt bad. Attack all the pirates. Show them the power of the Infinite Guild. First have suppressed Marine for a long time, and in order to make my reputation even louder, Xia En issued an order directly. The 7 blood shadows rushed to their respective battlefields in an instant, in 7 directions. And Roger, who was in front of Xia En, opened his eyes and focused on Kaido, Big Mom, who was the closest to Xia En and still in midair. Big Mom and Kaido felt trembling in their hearts, and Big Mom knew how strong Roger was, so he wanted to distance himself immediately. As a result, the terrifying Conqueror's haki descended from the sky and suppressed it, like a brilliant curtain of light. Not only did they feel the pressure of Conquerors, but it also suppressed the entire observation haki. Means such as spiritual perception and foreseeing the future are all restricted. Immediately, with the famous sword ace in his hand, Roger jumped up, like a lightning flash in front of the two of them. Kaido. How to say Big Mom is also 4 emperors, although frightened but not completely afraid. Immediately roared, Napoleon had already raised it. Kaido also reacted very quickly. Qinglong transformed into a dragon form, raised the mace and directly performed a combined attack with Big Mom. Overlord. As if various colors were mixed together, the shockwave composed of haki and energy exploded, lighting up the entire sky. Killing God. Roger's face was expressionless, and his eyes didn't even waver. After resurrection, in his prime state, he could only obey Xia En absolutely, but other consciousnesses were not good. When he returned to the fighting consciousness, he was even more powerful than before his death. The shockwave of the Overlord Sea surged forward, and the next second, the space in front of Roger seemed to be broken open by a black sword light. The swirling lightning is dense, from the tip to the blade, the sharpness bursts out, cutting through the sea in an instant. The shock wave that split into 2 halves suddenly lost its due power. Half of it surged upwards and half downwards, but it lost its destructive power. Roger, on the other hand, killed the god with 1 sword, rushed up from the shockwave, and went straight to Kaido Big Mom and the two. How so? His strength has not weakened at all. Kaido couldn't believe it, and Big Mom screamed strangely. While wielding a powerful backhand sword, Zeus, the thundercloud under his feet, released the great fireball of Prometheus, instantly forming the strongest form. Kaido gritted his teeth and was shocked as he witnessed the black slashes getting closer and closer. He had no idea that there was such a big gap between him and Roger. But the next moment, the terrifying power of the god-killing move came upon them who could not avoid it. Wei Guo, Roaring Thunder and 8 trigrams combined their 2 moves to be able to block Roger's god-killing attack, but also threw them away. Shu Zan had to retreat to stabilize his body. Audiences all over the world were stunned. This is the first time for ordinary people to see the legendary man. How strong is this pirate king who has been dead for 20 years? One person defeated 4 emperors Kaido and Big Mom with just 1 move. In the square, what the Marines saw was shocking, and it was the pirate king Roger who repelled the 4 emperors and defended Marineford. This scene immediately gave many people an unbelievable feeling. Let the pirate king fight for us. Only Shaw and Admiral can do this. The pirate king is beating up the 4 emperors. I seem to be dreaming. Tell me, is this a dream? Xia En, our blood shadow admiral is simply a god in the world. Maybe we don't have to worry today. That's right, look, not only the ones above, but also the shadows are starting to take action. In 7 directions, Blood Shadow, who blocked Whitebeard, Red Hair, Monkey D. Dragon, 100 Beasts, and Big Mom, did not make a direct move at the moment. The pirates and the Revolutionary Army are very alert, but the main attention is still on the battle in the air. One Piece versus 4 emperors. This kind of scene is also very rare for all the pirates. It's just that Jin, Quinn, Jack, Katakuri, Parasparrow and the others looked ugly, but they didn't dare to act rashly. Because there are 3 blood shadows on their side at this time, the Golden Lion blood shadow and Akainu blood shadow are all there. Once they make a move, Whitebeard and the others will not come to help, so it still depends on the battle above, so I think to look at the situation and look for opportunities to attack together. At this time, a voice shouted in the sky, "Roger, don't go too far. Wake up, I'm Linlin." Big Mom also tried to wake Roger up. After all, if he really woke up, Roger would not deal with them. "I know you are Linlin, pirate, you must be prepared to die." Roger spoke and actually responded, just the indifferent kind. "Kaido, kill him." Big Mom was startled and screamed. Knowing that it wasn't what he thought, his face became ruthless, lightning and flames wrapped around his body, and the soul fruit ability was fully activated. The Sun Hotsumi holds the end of the sword body, and the top of the sword body passes through the lightning Hotsumi, forming an energy ring shape. Sound cannon. Big Mom attacked Roger resolutely. A high-density super-powerful sword-like laser beam hit Roger's body with a dazzling light. On the other side, Kaido also understands that he can't stand by and just open his mouth to hit the heat. And this heat, like the one released by the dragon's body, is extremely powerful, showing rings of fire, heading straight to Roger from another angle. Too slow. There was no agility in Roger's eyes, but there was a strong fighting spirit, and he was talking to himself. It wasn't until the 2 major attacks were in front of him that it disappeared instantly. It is not so easy for Big Mom, Kaido to hit him directly without knowledgeable color to grab his trajectory. The result is that Big Mom's light cannon collided with Kaido's heat, and the flames bloomed in the air, and the expanding airflow formed a strong wind and swept downward. Kaido and Big Mom, who had lost their target, also changed their eyes, and after a second of delay, they suddenly raised their heads to look at a higher place. I saw Roger holding the knife in the air with one hand in the opposite direction, the black thunder and lightning and the thunder on the clouds. The momentum between the two alternately kept rising. Following the throwing posture, a frightening aura emanates. Looking at the move Roger was preparing, Big Mom and Kaido were a little scared. They had never seen such a scary move. Immediately Kaido reacted. The muscles all over his body swelled in a circle, and the next second, he also aroused the thunder in the clouds to entangle with his conqueror's breath. He, facing Roger's aura, is ready to use his big move. Big Mom quickly maximized its ability, and even because Roger's aura in the air was too terrifying, he directly let homie's Zeus snatch the thundercloud in the air, and then absorbed it with his sword, causing the light on the sword to become brighter. Come on, One Piece. If Roger is defeated here today, Kaido, Big Mom can also be considered to have completed a feat. David Thunder 8 trigrams, Great Thunder, Lightning Sword. The attack swung out almost at the same time. What Big Mom launched was a thunderbolt laser-like attack. And Kaido went straight to the challenge, dragging his mace to give Roger a hit. God. Fallen. Roger's rhythm was not disturbed by the two of them in the slightest, and the ace in his hand went south with all his strength in the box throw. The sword did not let go, but its terrifying energy poured out crazily and fell. Like a waterfall of stars falling from the Milky Way, coupled with Haki's lightning burst, the special effects made Shaw En's mouth wide open when he saw it, and he was very amazed. However, the first to be shot down was Kaido 487 who went up to meet him. Dweed is very strong, but before the Fall of God move that has potential and no end in sight, Kaido felt the terrifying power the moment he touched it. This is not only the power of Roger itself, but also the ability to control the higher level Haki. Kaido, it was under this ability that Haki of the 8 trigrams of David Thunder was actually torn apart by the streamer sword light of God Fallen, spinning. That is to say, after letting out a roar unwillingly, it was thrown away like a shooting star. It fell again within the town limits of Marineford. A part of the building was originally destroyed, but at this time it was because of Kaido's fall. The sky was full of dust, the ground shook, and buildings continued to collapse. Afterwards, the sword energy thunder light of Jule Ming lightsaber and God Fallen bombarded together. The bright and dazzling light keeps deepening, so strong that the weaker guys on the field can't open their eyes at all. Vibration, as if the whole space is vibrating. Seeing such an astonishing battle scene, Sengoku, Garp, Whitebeard and even the Redhead were all amazed and shocked. The second of the mighty 4 emperors can't hold Roger alone. Other people in the square were breaking out in cold sweat. Powerhouses of this level, including Kaido, were already disasters. Many people were afraid that if they came a few more times, Marineford would directly kill them. Match. But this time, while watching the confrontation between Big Mom and Roger, everyone who was shocked at the same time saw the outcome. I saw Big Mom's sword energy and thunderlight being completely washed away by the fall of God, followed by homies being bombarded. Even the screams could not be heard, and the shadow of Big Mom was blasted into the ground with the impact of falling. The Marineford island also shook violently immediately, but fortunately, it wasn't like Whitebeard's shot would tear the ground apart. But it also shocked everyone present. 3 moves. In addition to the divine avoidance at the beginning, only 3 moves. Big Mom and Kaido were knocked into the air, and Roger's attack could not be stopped at all. Roger. Dot has lost consciousness, don't you know us? There was some sadness in Whitebeard's eyes. He was not surprised by Roger's strength, but he felt heartbroken for the guy who was both an enemy and a friend. Xia En. Xia En. The red-haired Shanks clenched his fists tightly, and he didn't want to see his captain finally become a resurrected fighting machine in Xia En's hands. Shanks, calm down. Maybe we shouldn't watch the drama like this. Judging from the current situation, once Kaido, Big Mom loses fighting power, even we will be completely surrounded by Marine. Beckman hurriedly stood up and said seriously with an incomparably dignified expression. The situation has changed again. Chapter 77. The sky has fallen. One Piece shows off its natural disaster level strength. Collect lots of blood again. Even if they want to intervene, Whitebeard, Long and others can't find any chance for the time being. Fortunately, Big Mom, who was smashed into the ground, did not fall into the seawater, and soon flew out in a mess on the thunderclouds. The clean and tidy pink dress was also a little tattered at this time, which showed that there was already a lot of bloodline on the steel balloon-like skin defense. And Kaido came from the back of the town, shaking his head and clutching his chest, his eyes full of fear and fear. He never thought that Roger would be so strong at his peak. He was much stronger than the 4 emperors. But at this moment, Roger's figure fell from the sky, causing cracks in the ground. He pursued them directly, without giving them a chance to breathe. Xia En. When Kaido was angry, he gritted his teeth and stared at Xia En. Roger is just a puppet who obeys orders. He knows that Xia En is giving instructions. Do you think you can kill us if you can master Roger? Big Mom is also very angry. He has really embarrassed himself enough in front of the whole world today. This is the first time since they became emperors of the sea that they have been so embarrassed. Oh, then try to see if you can block the fighting power of the Pete Pirate King. Xia En smiled when she looked at their shameful and angry expressions. How could she let them go without even bleeding? Following Xia En's words, Roger shattered the ground with his kick, and his entire body shot towards Kaido rapidly. They have all talked about the ultimate strength, and punching to the flesh is the return to the essence of fighting. There weren't too many fancy special effects, just the black electricity wrapped around Conqueror's Hockey's body, and the two of them instantly fought together. Roger's sword slashed down, directly causing a terrifying force impact, and Kaido, who had raised his mace to block, slid away. Big Mom didn't dare to sit still and immediately started to support Kaido, calling for help from Whitebeard and others. There is no other way. If we really rely on them to fight alone, they have no confidence that they can take down Roger. The most important thing is that they are the only ones in the audience. What are they planning to do? Immediately, the sword of fire, thunder, and sword was swung out, forming a powerful beam of light and slashing at Roger. But before Big Mom could fall, Roger's body was almost as big as Ultimate's and rushed towards him. Ace in his right hand blocked the falling Mingo's sword, and punched Big Mom hard on the big belly. The intense hockey on both sides didn't even have to touch the target. Big Mom's stomach was punched and dented. ZZ hockey in the lightning, Big Mom vomited bitterness and retreated continuously. But before he could recover, Roger directly touched the knife in his hand. Broken Scourge. This sword directly encircled both Kaido and Big Mom. As it was swung, the two of them launched extremely sharp slashes from all directions, densely packed. It's like the entire space is carrying out a fatal attack on them, and they are being punished by heaven. What? Kaido just rushed over, but was completely enveloped by countless black sword lights, and he was shocked. He didn't understand why the resurrected Roger could launch such a powerful move so easily. In fact, Roger was like a blood shadow at this moment, and there was no need to worry about physical problems at all. This move can break the heavenly punishment and can be launched with full force. The two Big Moms were instantly surrounded by terrifying pressure, and the sword light that appeared in all directions was cut down by Roger's movements. No, one move after another, under such indiscriminate bombardment, Kaido and Big Mom were also shocked. But at this moment, they have no better way. They can only rely on their physical strength to burst out the hockey layer of defense. The surrounding Marines and pirates retreated in horror, not caring who was around them, and quickly fled the area where they were fighting. Terrible. Run. What was displayed in front of everyone was the black sword light striking Kaido and Big Mom one after another. Each blow erupted with astonishing hockey thunder and lightning. Even the aftermath of the spread can blast a big hole in the ground, and the center of the attack can't even see the figures of Kaido and the two. Under the shocking scenes, everyone was shocked and couldn't calm down for a long time. This is the strength of the Pirate King. Xia En actually resurrected such a monster. But at this time, Kaido and Big Mom were not soft persimmons, so they just let Roger do whatever he wanted. After all, he is a strong man in this world. The shattering scourge is very strong. As it explodes, there are even more amazing special effects. The two people inside are holding their heads down and resisting. Their blood is surging, and their bodies are even broken open and injured. It wasn't until a while later that a dragon roar rang out. Kaido couldn't bear it anymore, so he immediately stopped holding back and transformed into a giant dragon in anger. No matter you are the Pirate King or whatever, die to lousy. The blue dragon's body was huge, and with the help of this power, it broke through the range and flew into the sky. Kaido roared. With his anger, huge tornadoes formed on the surrounding sea, the clouds thundered, and the wind howled. He actually completely released the power of the blue dragon form. It was obvious that he didn't even care about his retreat on a battlefield of this level and only wanted to defeat Roger. Bad wind. Hot breath. Roar thunder. The three-element power controlled by wind, fire, thunder and Shinglong was infinitely amplified by Kaido, forming a terrifying natural disaster and doomsday, which pressed towards Roger in the square. This guy, Sengoku, the three admirals, and others all changed their minds. Maybe Kaido would really destroy Marineford. The first is the bad wind. The strong wind that rolls Kaido's body has countless wind blades covering Roger. The dragon's breath and roaring thunder merge, bursting out like a pillar of light. Who wouldn't be frightened to see this level of power? Big Mom's soul fruit ability is fully opened, and the three major homits are strengthened again. Relying on his gifted super strong body, exuding a pink aura, and surrounded by Haki, he rushed towards Roger like a demon. Rayleigh, the Redhead and others couldn't help but look shocked. They knew that even Roger couldn't catch an attack of this level head-on. But in front of them was Roger at his peak, the Sky Falls. Roger was already preparing this move when the two of them escaped from the shattered heavenly sending. The dark clouds in the sky solidified above his head, and the roaring thunder flashed more and more frequently. Xia En looked at it and was surprised. Why does this look a bit fantasy, like thunder from heaven? That's right. Roger's move is more like using Conqueror's Haki to trigger the thunder in the sky, and it is constantly brewing power in the dark clouds. Man-made thunder calamity-like moves, and when Kaido and Big Mom launched their full-strength moves, the pressure of Conqueror's Haki was suppressed like the power of panic, making all the pirates present extremely shocked and depressed, and felt irresistible fear in their hearts. No. Roger is stronger. Rayleigh looked at the battle between the two sides and suddenly exclaimed. Roger at his peak could indeed create such a terrifying scene, but he was not as unscrupulous as he is now. Could it be that after being resurrected by Xia En, despite his unlimited physical strength, he also strengthened a lot? The remnants of the old era can all see this. After all, Roger was the target that everyone was chasing and the admirable opponent. Others were completely attracted by the showdown between the two Sea Emperors and the Pirate King. Returning to Kaido's all-powerful moves, the lightning pillars of light that exploded in midair accompanied by countless wind blades, no one doubted that this kind of impact would directly destroy the naval headquarters fortress. Not to mention the Big Mom with glowing eyes at the back and rushing towards Roger. At this time, the terrifying thunder disaster of Kongtian Fall also reached its limit. I saw Roger let out a light breath, and all the Haki's energy in his body was drained, and he was completely exhausted. This kind of move, if you can use it when you are really alive, you will not be able to use it completely, and you will die first in an instant. But it's different now. No matter if the lamp runs out or the oil is exhausted, the resurrection trait can allow him to recover quickly without losing his vitality. At the same time, the famous sword ace raised in his hand fell. The passing trajectory left traces of lightning in the air. The next moment, in the thunderclouds in the sky, a bright thunder was triggered, and it burst towards the thunder and fire light pillar that divided the earth into ravines. 5 or 6 people surrounded the thick thunder, really like the fallen power of heaven. In an instant, the shocking power of thunder and fire was broken from the middle. The terrifying forces collide, causing an unbearable storm. Amidst the rumbling, the entire Marineford was trembling with fear. Kaido also wanted to break through Roger's moves, but he just couldn't shake him at all. It wasn't until this huge thunder light was collided by Big Mom and the rest of the power was broken away that everyone could see clearly that a circular abyss had been blasted out of the ground. No one has ever seen Haki being able to use it to such an extent, or even to the point where he can control the thunder beyond his abilities. But knowledgeable people, including Big Mom and Kaido, all know that this is not an ability, it is Roger's super move that uses the help of thunder and fuses his own Haki. A way of taking control that opens them up to a powerful path forward. When Big Mom saw that the lightning was broken, he didn't hesitate at all. He even accelerated his forward speed and bumped into him. He raised his light sword horizontally, pointing the tip of the sword at Roger, and was about to launch a terrifying attack. When Kaido saw that his 3-element move was broken, the entire dragon body burst into flames and was coated with 10 void flame armor. Fire Dragon Torch. Rising Dragon Flame 8 trigrams. At this moment, he decided to take action with all his strength. Even if he could no longer pose a threat to Xia En, he would still use his strongest method to destroy him. One is the Soul Breath, Haki's fully opened steel balloon, and the other is a terrifying and huge fire dragon, which is thrown towards Roger one day after another. But Roger's move, Skyfall, is not over yet. The lightning flash just now was just an appetizer. Everyone leave. Sengoku, Garp told all the frightened Marines to go away. Whitebeard, Red Hair and others even made Marco, Beckman and other cadres rush out of the square. They know that this battle can no longer be affected by the confrontation between their men and horses, but now it is a battlefield where top powerhouses compete. The result is the next moment, the true manifestation of the power of heaven's fall. Roger waved his sword lightly, and lightnings fell one after another. One waved after another. Big Mom was the first to bear the brunt. She wanted to use the lightsaber directly on Roger, but she was locked in the blink of an eye. He looked up in shock, and saw a terrifying thunderbolt 5 or 6 times bigger than himself falling. There was no time to think. Big Mom raised his hand and pointed the tip of the sword at the power of the falling sky, and the Mingo sword burst out with a violent energy laser. This blow is terrible. The collision with the lightning in midair even broke through the lightning and went straight into the clouds. Big Mom screamed in excitement, thinking that the thunder was louder than the rain, and Roger's move was only as powerful as that. But next, one after another dense lightning fell on her from different angles. At that moment, Big Mom was horrified. No, before the sound could be heard, the figure was shrouded in lightning and bombarded indiscriminately. Big Mom's location was directly blasted into the ground. At the same time, Roger also had the weakness of being distracted by Haki for a moment. But after just 1 second, he stabilized his condition and recovered again. Next, Kaido was hit by the Fire Dragon 8 trigrams. The body, which is countless times bigger than Big Mom, cannot be easily blocked by the lightning. Roger immediately jumped into the air. Interesting Zhao completely aroused the true power of Kongtian Fall. You can't stop me with this move. Let's face off, Roger. Kaido didn't look to see what kind of blow Big Mom was in. He roared, and his invisible eyes turned red. And this time, Roger did choose to face off. Facing the Fire Dragon 8 trigrams, the power of fallen sky seemed to follow Roger's leap, and 10-armed thick thunders were pulled from the clouds onto Ace's blade. Instantly let it shine and be entangled with lightning. Then with a chopping gesture, Roger went directly towards the Fire Dragon torch, fallen like a meteor, and the sword in his hand was connected to the thunder in the low clouds. The eyes of countless people were shocked, and the next scene was Roger striking the Fire Dragon with his sword. A huge roar of thunder. Roger softly uttered 4 words again: heaven, fall. The low clouds in the sky lit up like a lamp that was turned on, and the light shone on everyone's faces. But just for a moment, everyone seemed to be blind. Only Shaen, Sengoku, Garp and others could really see clearly. It was a bolt of lightning that contained Roger's terrifying Haki. The sword fell and struck Kaido's body. The lightning that could cover Kaido's huge body only lasted for an instant. This terrifying and astonishing fall from the sky broke the Fire Dragon torch on the spot. Flame has never appeared before, but the knife in Roger's hand disappeared along with the Fire Dragon torch and fell hard on Kaido, leaving a bloody mark. A large amount of blood spurted out. Kaido couldn't help but scream and fell straight down. At this time, the people who were flashed by the lightning also regained their vision. When they saw it again, it was Kaido spraying blood and falling, which made everyone stunned. At the same time, a yellow light flashed across the field, diligently collecting Kaido's blood. Chapter 78 Whitebeard Red-haired dragons all shot. The king challenges the king. Kaido and Big Mom simply couldn't withstand Roger's successive ultimate attacks. Their strength is already somewhat different from Roger's, not to mention that they are recruiting top players. Where Big Mom was bombarded, there is now only a deep hole left. She was covered in black smoke, her head was gray, her face was gray, her mouth was tightly closed, and she walked out of it. Her expression was very stiff. When she looked up, she saw Kaido who had fallen to the ground, breathing heavily, with hideous wounds on his body. The blood flows outward. Immediately, Big Mom couldn't bear it any longer, and blood spattered out. They were seriously injured under Roger's fierce attack. Big Mom didn't have any injuries on the outside, but his internal organs were injured by Haki, who was penetrated by the lightning. Roger's use of Haki really allowed them to see a whole new realm. From killing gods to breaking scourges, and then using the environment to inflict conquerors, I was shocked again, and now I'm a little scared. And now everyone can see that Roger himself has the ability of Blood Shadow to have unlimited physical strength, and can consume physical strength unscrupulously. Haki. Just as before, Roger, who used his ultimate moves one after another, only gasped for a few seconds after landing, and his breath quickly recovered. Now that he has regained his grip on the long sword, his eyes are fixed on Big Mom and Kaido. Call out at this time, the diligent yellow light flashed again, taking the opportunity to collect all Kaido Big Mom's blood. Shaen looked at the amount of blood collected by brother Kizaru and Xueying and smiled happily. Then he looked at Kaido and said coldly to himself, if you can, just kill him. Kaido and Big Mom have tried to take their own lives many times. If given the chance, Shaen would not mind ending their lives. Immediately, Roger raised his hand and continued to attack Kaido, Big Mom. Broken Scourge. The conquerors that enveloped the whole place was once again centered around Kaido and Big Mom, as if a filter was added to Kaido and the two. Invisible fluctuations seemed to freeze the air, and the next moment, black slashing sword lights appeared. Completely surrounding Kaido and the two, the strong Haki and the sharpness of the blade's light made the injured two feel a cold sense of crisis. In their injured state, they may not be able to withstand Roger's move. Kaido-sama. Mother. The cadres on both sides of Jin and Katakuri finally reacted from the shock, exclaimed and set out to rescue the injured two people. But as soon as he finished speaking, the Golden Lion Blood Shadow held his hand, and the terrain was directly overturned by it, forming a wall to block them in front of them. Go away. Katakuri struck out furiously, his fist became huge and he blasted forward. But before the whistling fist could hit the obstacle, the same huge magma fist struck, forcefully pushing it back and igniting the extension of the Nuo fruit. Shadow of Akainu. Katakuri retracted his hand, and what he saw was that his fist was black and smoking. At the same time, Jin wanted to pass directly through the blockade of the Golden Lion's blood shadow, but he couldn't speed up. The yellow sword light slashed through him, almost cutting off his wings. In the sky, there is also an indestructible fortress, the shadow of a golden lion. At the same time, Aokiji's blood shadow braved the cold air on their sides, and frost slowly spread over them. Katakuri, Jin, the ministers, and the 6 flying brothers all had trembling expressions on their faces, realizing that they had no way to rush over and had no choice but to fight to the death with the blood shadow. But the Akainu blood shadow has infinite resurrection shadows. As Katakuri and Jin ordered to charge and fight, it rushed into the crowd without its life, with its lava fruit ability fully activated. The center of the battlefield here instantly turned into a sea of fire. Obviously, the Big Mom pirates and the Beast's pirates were too late to support Kaido, Big Mom. Just as their battle began, Roger's shattering scourge had already burst out. The dense black sword light seemed to shatter and split the space. Facing this kind of move again, the two of them didn't have so much hockey to defend against. But at the critical moment, Whitebeard, Red Hair, Long and others still took action. Although Whitebeard hates Kaido, he also knows that the existence of Kaido and Big Mom still has a big role. With the Red Hair's persuasion, the 3 parties decided to continue the fight. Defeat the enemy and save people. Whitebeard led Marco and others straight to the Marines who were already huddled under the execution platform. Fight! Sengoku saw this and immediately gave the order. The tripartite coalition would take action again, which did not surprise Sengoku. Instead, he had been waiting for their counterattack. The Marine, a CFG, soldiers had watched for so long and knew that they could regain the situation in the face of Shaw En's resurrection skills, so they excitedly fought fiercely with the Whitebeard pirates, Red Hair pirates and the Revolutionary Army again. But the red-haired Whitebeard himself was letting the cadres lead the people to fight, but he actually turned around to deal with Roger, who was about to execute Kaido, Big Mom. It is impossible to save Kaido, but Whitebeard has no pressure on Roger, who has lost his self-awareness and resurrected. Roger reacted and saw Shanks and Whitebeard rushing towards him. He immediately gave up the move of shattering divine punishment and turned around and slashed with his sword. Killing God. The black sword light cut open, as if a rift in space had been cut. Captain Roger, Shanks had nostalgia in his eyes, but at this moment he could only take action firmly. He actually used a move to kill gods. Conqueror's hockey collided between the two, and the special effects of lightning bursts were formed in the middle of the blades confronting each other in the air. Shanks was obviously no match for Roger, who was at his peak with just one strike. He fell directly into a disadvantage. He began to sweat on his forehead and gritted his teeth to persevere. Soon, in the strong wind blowing between them, Whitebeard raised his naginata, a white halo covered the blade, and suddenly fell towards Roger. Roger, it's been so long. The addition of Whitebeard will undoubtedly make Roger feel pressured. Then, a move changed, the blade suddenly pointed upward, and an even more ferocious Conqueror's hockey erupted. Godfall. Change your moves, in a duel with top players, or change your moves when fighting hockey. This move made Whitebeard and Shanks look shocked, but it was too late to think about it at this time. The God's Fall move can be released in a variety of ways, not necessarily throwing it. For example, this time, Roger used the long knife. Not only Whitebeard was suppressed, but Shanks was also included in the attack. Last time, it was like a waterfall of starlight falling from the Milky Way to Kaido and the two of them. This time, it was a black and red rainbow of sword energy bursting upward. Ultimate's explosive power immediately made Whitebeard's eyes reveal a look of disbelief. Because Roger at this time is stronger than any time he has ever known. Don't think about it, it must be Shaw En's doing. The powerful explosive force caught Whitebeard by surprise, and he stood against it abruptly, his pupils trembling. However, under the influence of this changing move, Shanks was even thrown out and hit the defensive wall of the inner bay fiercely. But Roger wants to knock Whitebeard into the air, which is very difficult, and being able to occupy a certain advantage is already the limit. However, something unexpected happened. Using all strength in hockey, Whitebeard's injured body, which was already under load, deteriorated dramatically. During the collision between the two, his face suddenly sank, and beads of sweat kept coming out of his face, and the irresistible pain invaded Whitebeard's body and mind. "You're old, Newgate." Roger's emotionless voice sounded. He seemed to recognize who it was, but he wouldn't show any mercy when he shot. Whitebeard, who is suffering from injury, is a good opportunity to beat him. How can he miss it? In the next second, the power of God's Fall exploded in a two-stage burst of astonishing power. Shock Saber fought against it, but gradually weakened. This burst broke Whitebeard's move immediately, and the power hit Whitebeard's chest. If it weren't for hockey's protection, I'm afraid the whole person would be split by Roger. But the body was also sent flying, drawing a parabola in the air and falling to the ground. Daddy. All of a sudden, Marco, Beasta, Josie and others panicked. How is it possible? Roger didn't have the strength to directly crush the old man. Marco didn't react until he saw Whitebeard clutching his chest and vomiting blood on the ground. Dad's injury has struck. Marco was really panicked. They fought too long in Marineford, and Whitebeard fought too long, not to mention taking drugs, and even getting injured by the suicide attack of Garp's blood shadow. It is not easy to persevere until now, let alone the opponent is Roger. At this moment, the others were also shocked by this scene. Whitebeard was punched and vomited blood by Roger. Even the Redhead who joined forces with Whitebeard was knocked out. How can this be? Is there such a big difference in their strength? Kaido, Big Mom, Whitebeard, Red Hair. None of the four emperors can compete with One Piece. The Shichibukai, Moria and Hancock, were taken aback, far beyond imagination. Even the audience watching the live broadcast outside the venue couldn't take their eyes off it. For fear of missing the historic moment, they watched extremely nervously and held their breath. For them, there is no doubt that this is a duel that spans time and space. And the happiest was everyone in Marine. Even Sengoku let out a sigh of relief. Fortunately, we have Xia En here, otherwise, today might be really difficult. As the situation changed, Sengoku was also fluctuated by the ups and downs of the battlefield. Especially the appearance of four emperors was so disappointing, but now, Roger was revived by Xia En, and fought against four emperors, directly injured three of them, and knocked the Red Hair away. Simply delightful. And at this time, the coalition forces led by Marco, Beckman and others were fighting with the four Blood Shadows and Marine soldiers, and they were fighting together. They couldn't break through directly for a while, but they were very concerned about Whitebeard, the red-haired side. As for Jin and Katakori's group, the three Blood Shadows are enough to hold them back, so Sengoku doesn't need to care about them at all. The situation is very good. On the platform where Xia En is located, Akainu and Aokiji are protecting, and the industrious Kizaru is helping his younger brother to replace Kizaru's Blood Shadow to collect the fallen blood. Whitebeard vomited blood and he didn't fall behind, taking the opportunity to charge over. On the other side, the Monkey D Dragon who was waiting for an opportunity turned gloomy, staring at Xia En's side. He wanted to hit Wanlong directly. It turns out that there is no chance, and the Golden Lion Blood Shadow has been in the air, facing the beasts from the air and the Big Mom pirates. Such an outrageous guy, if he grows up, he will definitely become an invincible weapon for the world government to understand all threats. Xia En leaned against the world government, making Monkey very disturbed. At this time, he saw that Roger gave up chasing Whitebeard, but wanted to continue to attack the red-haired Shanks. Frowning, he decisively chose to attack him. Only by disposing of Xia En's strongest means can they return to their previous advantage. Because all the changes started with the resurrection of Roger. Even the four emperors can't stand it, which shows the horror of One Piece. And Roger turned around at this time and locked on Shanks. I remember you, Red Taro. Standing up, Shanks gave a wry smile. He already understood Roger's current state in his heart, and he didn't have the mentality to let him recover. Come on, Roger Jong. Griffin versus Ace, the battle between One Piece and his successor. God avoids. The next moment, the two shouted this almost at the same time. Both of them are backhanded, swinging similar Western swords in a great arc. Two red and black slashes, accompanied by the sound of the conquerors, instantly staggered and collided. A strong impact erupted, blowing Roger, Shanks' cloaks and coats fluttering. Immediately, the two approached quickly, their knives collided, and began a hand-to-hand fight. Shanks is indeed strong, but in terms of strength, he still lags behind Roger, let alone the enhanced version of Roger. Soon, Shanks vomited blood again and flew backwards with a knife. Roger pursued at high speed, raised his long knife and wanted to use Shattering Scourge to completely defeat Shanks. But at this time, a conscious gust of wind roared in, and it came crashing down with a powerful fist. The person who appeared was Monkey D. Dragon, who was waiting for the opportunity to attack. What Long didn't expect was that Roger's reaction was unbelievably fast. Before the body turned around, Shattered Scourge actually locked him. The extremely powerful Conqueror's Haki froze the space, and restricted the dragon's ability a lot. Dragon Claw. Of course, Monkey D. Dragon didn't have only this move, and immediately took out his own physical skills. Immediately, countless black sword blades came, and he struggled to resist with Dragon Claw Fist. A few seconds later, before the power of Shattering Scourge was fully released, the effects around the Monkey Dragon suddenly disappeared. It turned out that Roger gave up the Shattering Scourge and turned his head to look in the direction where Shanks was knocked into the air. The red-haired Shanks was stopped by the world's #1 swordsman holding a black knife knight. Whitebeard didn't try it out just now, and was disturbed by someone. I want to try. How strong is the Pirate King Roger who can defeat Whitebeard? Hawkeye stared straight at Roger, unexpectedly wanting to challenge him one-on-one temporarily. Chapter 79. Xia En's firepower is fully activated, suppressing all pirates strongly. Fierce battles are imminent. The 7 Blood Shadows stood horizontally in front of the pirate coalition. Roger held a long sword and looked coldly. I'm afraid this is the last chance. Captain Roger has become stronger, we must work hard. Shanks wiped the bloodline from the corner of his mouth, and said very solemnly. Save people. Whitebeard had just regained his strength, and he couldn't help saying that he was about to strike. He also knew that if he didn't take advantage of the spare energy to fight at this time, he might become a burden in a while. The relapse of the injury will not be cured in a short while, and more importantly, Whitebeard has death intentions in his eyes at this time. From his point of view, this battlefield may be his final destination. There are old friends such as Roger and Rayleigh, as well as those old opponents of Marine, even enemies. In the end, if he saves someone, he intends to kill Kaido and die on the spot, no matter what. After all, Whitebeard's invincible momentum erupted, and he forcibly erupted his combat power regardless of injuries. Red Hair, Monkey Dragon and the others sensed Whitebeard's unspoken aura, and gradually ignited their fighting spirit. Brothers, go! Shanks made a commanding gesture, and was the first to charge up. Behind them, Beckman, Usopp, Lakilu and others roared and followed one after another. Whitebeard didn't say a word at the moment, leading Marco and others to charge at the same time, and the Revolutionary Army led by Monkey Dragon, Sabo and others were also synchronized. For a time, the tripartite alliance broke out again. Although the near-invincible Roger and Xia En's 7 Blood Shadows, as well as Marine soldiers, are in front of them, pirates are very adventurous existences. Head-to-head array, it is not the opponent of Roger and the Blood Shadows. It is normal for the pirates to try to counterattack collectively. Coming. Seeing this, Xia En stood on the platform and waved immediately. Roger was the first to kill Whitebeard, where the Redhead was. The sword energy formed by the terrifying Haki instantly wiped away a large number of pirates and revolutionary troops. The two did not back down, gritted their teeth and went head-on. The weapons of the two sides collided in the air, and the burst of Haki lightning immediately cleared a large area. At the same time, Momousagi Blood Shadow, Garp Blood Shadow, and Akainu Blood Shadow, the 3 existences with infinite resurrection completely gave up defense, and they rushed into the pirate lineup with the strongest attack they could and killed Sauter. The center of the square instantly turned into magma, sword energy, and the source of Haki's raging riots. What's even more frightening is that this time without the help of Whitebeard and Redhead, the 3 revived Blood Shadows used an extremely crazy style of play. As soon as they met, Vista was blown away. At the same time, Garp's back was attacked by countless pirates, including Monkey D. Dragon's Dragonclaw Fist. Maybe he would keep his hand against Garp himself, but he wouldn't against the Blood Shadow. This blow directly hit Garp's heart. But in the next second, Garp's Blood Shadow faded and died, and in the blink of an eye he was revived again, punching back and colliding with the dragon, causing terrifying damage. The same is true for the Blood Shadow of Momousagi and the Blood Shadow of Akainu. The cadres were wounded at the beginning of the battle, and they themselves were besieged to death, and then revived. In this way, between death and resurrection, the 3 Blood Shadows are simply the nightmare of the pirates. It has not been long since the beginning, and the cadres including Sabo, Marco and others have already been traumatized by the way of fighting for lives. Its intensity is completely incomparable with before, not a level. This is also where everyone once again saw the horror of the Blood Shadow. 3 statues are enough to hold back most of the Alliance pirates and the Revolutionary Army. But the Tripartite Alliance is far more powerful than this. The Sergeant Majors and other cadres of the Revolutionary Army broke through one after another, ignored the 3 Garp Blood Shadows, and went straight to the execution platform. But before sprinting for a certain distance, a figure quickly left the battle center and appeared in front of them. The red and black sword light slashed, and even the Sergeant Major Crow couldn't stand it, and was thrown away like other people who rushed up, and was knocked back. The fierce sword light even drew a deep gully on the ground, intersecting with the previous destruction. Avoid. Roger. The 3-party coalition forces swallowed their throats and said in shock. It turned out that the person who stopped Whitebeard and the red-haired was briefly repulsed, and Roger who quickly returned to defense. The enhanced version of Roger is not Whitebeard at all, and the redheads can completely hold it. Immediately, the ground shook rapidly, and the entire floor was driven upright. A stone wall was formed to block the Revolutionary Army and pirates. The person who made the shot was the Golden Lion Blood Shadow who fought against Katakuri and the group of people. Beasts Pirates. The 2 alliances of the Big Mom Pirates rushed up to fight Marine just now. Golden Lion Blood Shadow shot at them in the air. Lion Fruit cooperated with his swordsmanship, forming a very powerful attack on the 2 pirates below airbombing. The Sengoku Golem turned into a giant golden Buddha stood in front of him, along with the Aokiji Golem and Kizaru Golem walking between Whitebeard and the 2 of them. When Kaido and Big Mom were powerless, they unexpectedly blocked the double alliance abruptly. How could this be? How could it be? Kaido never thought that the huge advantage was reversed by Xia En, and he was a little stimulated. He and Big Mom didn't have extra Haki to continue fighting at the moment, so they could only recover on the spot and watch helplessly. However, under the attack of Sengoku Blood Shadow, Golden Lion Blood Shadow, and Aokiji and Kizaru roaming the battlefield, the combined forces of their 2 pirate groups began to be repelled. Even Katakuri and Jin's cadres will be traumatized if they're not careful. The other gangsters are not even cannon fodder at all, and guns are useless at this moment. Shocked and unwilling, Kaido staggered to his feet and looked towards Whitebeard. Under the execution platform, Akainu Sakazuki himself stood like a barrier at the last line of defense, leading the marine soldiers to stand firm. The 3 infinite bleeding shadows are wreaking havoc among the pirates and revolutionary fighters, and with Roger's interference, they seem to be in no one's land. Because as long as someone joins forces to besiege the undead Blood Shadow, immediately Roger will raise his sword and kill him to break the siege. Whitebeard, red-haired Shanks, Monkey D. Dragon and others, there is no way at all. The three of them teamed up to hold Roger down, and they would be separated by him if they were not careful. More importantly, the harassment of Aokiji Blood Shadow and Kizaru Blood Shadow was hard to guard against. Kaido was stunned, dumbfounded, and looked incredible. A quantity of this scale, and a combat power of this level, are being repelled abruptly by Shaen's Blood Shadow. Kaido, who has always thought about forming a powerful army of capable people, even accepted more than 5,000 members of the army, was overturned. 10,000 members are no match for an immortal Blood Shadow. Monster. He is the real monster. The situation on the battlefield was completely reversed. The pirates never expected that tens of thousands of people with only 8 combatants would be dragged into the square and beaten. On the other hand, Marine's forces, except for Akainu Sakazuki who found the right opportunity to take action, were just firing. Roger took action, Whitebeard, and the red-haired top fighters were unable to give full play to their advantages and strength on the battlefield. Together with the 7 Blood Shadows, they actually started to force the pirate alliance to retreat. There is no way, the resurrected Roger is too strong, so strong that Whitebeard is not sure to directly hurt him, let alone easily deal with him by exchanging lives. After all, no one knows now whether his Roger will also have unlimited resurrection characteristic. Gradually, the fear on the pirates' expressions became more and more obvious. Shaen's abilities were fully activated, and the full power of the Blood Shadow was really terrifying. The cooperation between Blood Shadow and Roger, not to mention the Blood Shadow who is not afraid of death, under the control of the triangle, no matter how many people they have, it is useless. Seeing everyone on the pirate side being beaten and retreating, countless people were amazed. It's too strong. I underestimated the Blood Shadow Admiral's ability before. Throughout the ages, the only person who can fight against the 4 emperors and the Revolutionary Army alone is probably the Blood Shadow Admiral. The pirates can't stop the crazy attack at all, and they can't hold on any longer. The balance of victory tilts towards Marine again. Great. Long live the Blood Shadow Admiral. The battlefield was littered with corpses, and there were wounded and killed pirates everywhere. The cruelty of war was truly reflected in front of everyone. Xia En, who dominates the Marineford battlefield, has a sharp rise in prestige in the hearts of the world, reaching an unprecedented peak. From the very beginning, Xia En has continuously shocked everyone, making them unbelievable. She has also broken through the cognitive process time and time again, including the impossible thing of resurrecting Roger. But the result is good. The people don't have to worry about the pirates coming back and overthrowing the righteous Marine, and they don't have to worry about the day of panic coming, so many people cheered while grateful for the great kindness. 0 flowers requested. However, on the pirate side, the situation also took a turn for the worse. In other words, more and more pirates have lost their will to fight, including the Beast's pirates and the people on the Big Mom pirate group's side. Although the Blood Shadow cannot be crushed directly, it still hurts everyone continuously as the battle continues. However, when a Blood Shadow is injured, its combat power will not decrease like a real person, and people like Katakuri and Jin cannot cause fatal injuries to the Golden Lion Blood Shadow, Sengoku Blood Shadow, etc. Instead, they are defeated by the 2 legendary and admiral levels. Under the harassment of Blood Shadows, they continued to collapse. The other side. The red-haired man and Whitebeard teamed up to force Roger back again. He took a few deep breaths, and the physical exertion was not small. Seeing that the unkillable Akainu Blood Shadow and Garp Blood Shadow in his own camp were still attacking crazily, his pupils couldn't help but shrink, but he didn't have a better way to deal with it, very annoyed. Gradually, Whitebeard's desire to completely destroy Marineford became stronger and stronger. He has the strength to destroy an entire sea area and annihilate them all. At this time, Marco's voice sounded from the side, extinguishing Whitebeard's demonic thoughts. Dad, we can't continue fighting. Too many people had died. Not only did they not enter the execution platform, but they were beaten back and forth. Marco, Beckman and others all realized that the war was no longer possible and that saving people was almost impossible. Not to mention rescuing the 3 people on the execution platform, they couldn't even get past the Blood Shadow and the resurrected Roger. 0. Yes. Whitebeard was stunned and let out a sigh of relief. Even if he unleashes an earthquake with all his strength, the consequences will be that the people on his side will die together with Marine, which is not the desired result. Boss. Beckman also hurried to Shanks' side and called out. I see. Shanks kept staring at Roger, and then at Luffy and Rayleigh on the execution platform, feeling sad in his heart. Today, they may have no hope of rescuing them. Even meeting Captain Roger today was like this. At this point, he was already shaken and hesitant like Whitebeard whether to retreat temporarily. Xia En standing on the platform, seeing red hair, Whitebeard and others gathered together and said a few words, guessing that they wanted to evacuate. The unwillingness on his face should not be too obvious. It's useless, Whitebeard, Redhead, and everyone from the Revolutionary Army. This is Marineford Naval Headquarters, located in the center of the world. It's not like you criminals can come and leave whenever you want. Just the place to go. It's impossible for you to leave today. Xia En would not let these people leave like this, and immediately asked Aryang to take action. Almost simultaneously, The two figures of Akainu Blood Shadow and Garp Blood Shadow quickly rushed away from the surrounding pirates, throwing a group of people away. Ignoring the attacks from Beasta, Gabu and others, he went straight to Whitebeard, Redhead and others. The fist-bone impact exploded, covering all the enemies in front. Whether they were cadres or crew members, they were all knocked away by this powerful impact. Whitebeard and the red-haired too immediately hesitated and gritted their teeth and rode Garp. The Blood Shadow confronts each other. The aftermath of the violent spread swept away in waves. Akainu Blood Shadow took the opportunity to erupt with lava, trapping everyone including Whitebeard, the red-haired and other main force, and immediately launched a suicide offensive towards the red-haired Shanks. On the other side, Roger dodges with a sharp sword, instantly clearing away the pirates and revolutionary troops in front of him, and then rushes into the magma circle. The Whitebeard pirates, Red Hair pirates, and the main combat force of the Revolutionary Army are inside, fighting against Roger, Akainu Blood Shadow, and Gamp Blood Shadow. The Momousagi Blood Shadow cooperated with Akainu Sakazuki and the marine soldiers to encircle and suppress the remaining pirates. Kaido, Big Mom and the pirate group were unable to exert their fighting power at all. They were confined to one corner and fought against the Blood Shadow. Instead, they became defending the injured Kaido. Big Mom battle. Seeing the situation on the pirate side take a turn for the worse, Rayleigh sighed deeply on the execution platform. Stop accepting the challenge. Luffy and Ace were even more shocked by this unprecedented battle. At this moment, seeing their friendly side at a disadvantage, they couldn't help shouting with extreme worry. Everyone knows that the pirate side has been completely reversed by Shaw En's resurrection and the full firepower of Blood Shadow, and there is no hope of victory. Chapter 87. The old era has arrived. With the surprise Golden Lion and Bullet, the world is in panic. The battle situation has completely fallen into a disadvantage. In the pirate camp, Kaido and Big Mom have long had the idea of retreating. Now seeing the situation, even if they have recovered some strength, they dare not continue to fight. Instead, they look at Shaw En in surprise as he directs the Blood Shadow to attack. Kamui. Crazy. The world is crazy. Roger was resurrected by him, and those Blood Shadows. Big Mom was shocked by the huge gap between the front and back, which led to some crazy yelling, and she even regretted why she didn't take Chong En when he was at his weakest. In this case, such heaven-defying abilities can be controlled by oneself. But by this time, it was already too late. Shaw En stood on the platform, looking at the battlefield where victory was about to take place, and wanted to take care of Whitebeard and others first. Unexpectedly, this is the moment. Suddenly, the low-altitude dark clouds in the sky were suddenly broken. A huge rock falls from the sky. When the shadow came over, everyone suddenly realized what was going on. Shaw En looked up and frowned. Where did the stone come from? And it went straight to the Blood Shadow in the square. Get out of the way. The pirates were already avoiding the Blood Shadow's desperate attack, but suddenly a huge boulder hit them, and they immediately screamed and dispersed. Whitebeard, Red Hair, Monkey D. Dragon and others were all shocked, but found that the boulder was not going towards their people. Instead, in the rapid fall, Akainu Blood Shadow and Leap Rabbit Shadow were accurately smashed into the ground. Boom. The weight and the impact of the fall instantly made a big hole in the ragged ground of the square. Together with the two big Blood Shadows, they were also suppressed below. When dust was everywhere, the soldiers of the 337 Marine Army looked horrified. They were frightened by this sudden scene, but the two Blood Shadows were accurately hit. They couldn't help but exclaimed. Stone? Everyone was suddenly surprised. They noticed someone coming from the sky? The war has been going on till now. Who is still taking action? At this moment, a group of figures suddenly appeared on the shore of Marineford. Shaw En and others looked back and saw that the people who came were actually a group of prisoners wearing prison uniforms. The leader had a very recognizable face. Revolutionary Army cadre, Ladyboy King, Ivankov. Gia ha ha ha. How can you do something like revenge against Marine without me? I want to settle the grudges from the past together today. Immediately, a burst of laughter spread from the sky, and the Golden Lion himself floated down, looking at Shaw En and Marine with a fierce look in their eyes. Sengoku, Garp, Shaw En, arrested him twice and imprisoned him, which made Golden Lion hate him very much. The world government should have been destroyed a long time ago. With so many people gathered today, it's time to attack directly. A burly man with missing teeth and tattered clothes appeared among the prisoners. The prisoners, obviously very fearful of him, gave way one after another. When Garp, Admiral and others saw it, their eyes immediately trembled. This man is a lunatic, Burndy. Waldo, you actually escaped from prison. The Golden Lion appeared, and the World Destroyer also appeared. Without even thinking about it, Impel Down was in trouble. What happened? Why did the big criminal on the 6th floor come out? Is there no news at all about Impel Down? Sengoku immediately asked the liaison soldier on standby. There is the Gate of Justice, there is Impel Down, but they managed to break out of prison silently despite multiple security measures. I can't imagine how much of a crisis this will cause to Marineford's battlefield. But without waiting for a response, a strange chuckle came over. How can you know in advance that there are so many of us coming out? The red figure appeared on top of the dilapidated fortress at some point. The wind blew his red clothes and swayed. When everyone saw it, everyone opened their mouths in shock and looked at this legendary figure in disbelief. Leadfield. Garp even exclaimed involuntarily. The great pirate defeated by Marshal Kong, a desperate and cruel criminal, actually escaped from prison. Roger. I can't believe that I can see you again, it's so great. The Red Earl continued to chuckle, but an evil smile appeared on his old face, staring straight at the resurrected Roger on the field. Yes, Roger, it made me so desperate, it's great to be able to fight with you. Shouted another voice. Bullet, wearing prison uniform, with a strong body and excitement flashing in his eyes, appeared not far from the Red Earl. He didn't even pay attention to anyone else, only Roger on the field. That was the man he once wanted to defeat and the man he had become a partner with. Bullet was excited, or more complicated. Ha ha ha, I'm telling you, you will never be disappointed when you come here. What a wonderful battlefield. You think so, Dad? All the prisoners from the city appeared. After Bullet, Blackbeard appeared with his companions and old crew members such as Badgers. The fear of everyone in Marine became more frightened as one big criminal appeared one after another, and some even trembled all over. World Destroyer, Red Earl, Bullet, Blackbeard, isn't he a Shichibukai? What happened? Why did so many big criminals escape from prison and come here? Are they going to join the war? It's crazy. This battlefield, the giant San Juan Wolf, as well as the evil king, Dai Peng and other prisoners, plus Bullet, Golden Lion, and the Red Earl Legendary 3 are here. Is God going to destroy Marine? So many enemies. What on earth happened? These prisoners should not be executed, their existence has been erased. No, they are all criminals imprisoned in Impel Down. They all came to Marineford, plus the 4 emperors, the Revolutionary Army. It was unbelievable. All the viewers who watched the live broadcast were shocked. It's really because at this moment, there are too many prisoners on the scene, and it's too desperate. Originally, everyone thought that the Revolutionary Army was going to lose, not to mention saving people, but even themselves would be in trouble. But who would have thought that such a desperate thing would happen, Impel Down the legend of imprisonment, and all the big criminals would arrive. With the addition of these guys, can Marine still cope? However, the Marine soldiers were stunned at this moment and began to fear the sudden change. There are so many big prisoners from Impel Down, Marine is facing waves of enemies today. Bullet. Red Earl. Rayleigh on the execution platform looked at the familiar figures and was stunned. What is going on? Their appearance just rescues Whitebeard and the others. Is it true that his life should not be cut off? Or is it the end of Marine? Humph, Rayleigh, I know you are not someone who is easy to catch. Bullet and Rayleigh looked at each other, very dissatisfied. He knew that if Rayleigh wanted to leave, there were not a few top players who couldn't catch this man called Pluton. Rayleigh could only helplessly smile bitterly. At this time, Golden Lion, Red Earl and others only made eye contact with Whitebeard, Redhead and others, and then looked at the senior management of Marine. The faces of Sengoku, Garp, 3 admirals and others were so gloomy that they were ugly like dripping water, each of them clenched their fists, annoyed and frightened. There are too many. Adding Whitebeard, Red Hair and these people, the enemies facing Marineford today are almost all the top forces in the sea. Marshal Sengoku, are you satisfied with my gift? Thief ha ha ha? But the main person I'm looking for today is him, Xia En. Blackbeard brought a large group of prisoners, and let so many big prisoners come out of Marineford to participate in the war, and his heart was very swollen. Although everyone, including him, was surprised when they first saw the battlefield, they did not expect the 4 emperors to gather together and the Revolutionary Army to join them. But such an environment is more beneficial to him. With the addition of Impel Down prisoners, Marine is also in danger. He is Xia En. Blood Shadow is really powerful. Roger was resurrected because of you. Berndi Waldo laughed straight, and looked at Xia En with a fierce look in his eyes. Such a person works for the world government? That must be killed? Whitebeard, Kotaro, you guys are so embarrassing enough to be made like this by an 8-year-old. Bullet sneered, especially disdainful for Xia En who looked like a child. No matter how powerful the ability is, the user is just a kid, and he doesn't pay attention to it at all. Don't underestimate it. Have you forgotten what the Golden Lion introduced to us before it came? This is a rare genius in Marine. The Red Earl has become a lot more restrained in the prison, and he looked at Xia En with his eyes, but there was no reason for it. In fact, before all of them arrived, many were not interested. The reason was all because of Xia En's existence. Golden Lion, Blackbeard and others are the people with the Blood Shadow ability. A blood shadow that can suppress the 4 emperors and 100% replicate the strength of the original Bloodmaster is extremely terrifying. Especially because Xia En is in the world government, no one can stay away safely after telling her story. With the persuasion of Golden Lion and Blackbeard, everyone went straight to Marineford. The purpose is to kill Xia En. Eliminate the terrifying potential that prevents them from being free. But what I didn't expect was that I sensed multiple terrifying waves of aura on the way here. Even the familiar Roger appears. It is speculated that in addition to Whitebeard and others, it should be Xia En who did it, which also made everyone's curiosity about Xia En reach its peak. Why don't you just stay in jail? Now that you're out, there's no need for it. Akainu Sakazuki is not only angry, but also full of murderous intent. He wants to melt Blackbeard. It was clear that Marine was about to win, but because of this Blackbeard, Marine was once again in crisis. Your target is Xia En. Sengoku, who had always been rational, cried out in his heart that something was wrong, and at the same time he became angry. It seems that today is no longer as simple as guarding the execution platform. With the participation of Red Earl, Golden Lion and others, the pirates will attack crazily again. But everyone from Sengoku to San Admiral is determined to protect Xia En. However, people all over the world have already seen fear, despair, and worry about Marine. Now when these big criminals bluntly stated that their target is Xia En, it caused a huge uproar. These people are actually coming to kill Blood Shadow Admiral. The criminals in Impel Down are indeed extremely vicious. Blood Shadow Admiral, Marine is in danger. The enemy Marine faced was so huge that even the 5 elders became pale and restless, let alone the people, kingdoms, and nobles. There is no one who is not shocked by this. In comparison, all the strong men in Marine, including Blood Shadow, look so weak. Things happen so unexpectedly. On the other hand, Xia En, being stared at by so many big criminals with evil intentions, not only did not feel afraid but sighed with emotion. I am sure I didn't expect that all the prisoners in Impel Down would come to Marineford. At most, I thought Blackbeard would come to cause trouble. It seems that the butterfly effect has brought about great changes. My abilities are very conspicuous, making these people who could have stayed out of the matter unable to sit still. They are afraid that they will have more and more power under their control, and they will have to hide for the rest of their lives, so they join forces. Xia En watched silently, counting the number of strong men. 3 legends, Golden Lion, Bullet, and Red Earl, plus the big criminal. And below, Whitebeard, Red Hair, Monkey Dragon and Kaido, Big Mom, were all very surprised. Xia En didn't expect it, let alone them, that Impel Down's prisoners would show up. Teach. Surprised, Whitebeard glared at the arrogant Blackbeard, with murderous intent in his eyes, wishing he could take action immediately. Looks like we have another chance. Shanks glanced at Bullet and other acquaintances complicatedly, and then whispered to Whitebeard. They had been retreating slowly before, but changes gave them a greater opportunity. If everyone takes action against Xia En and Marine, even Captain Roger and Blood Shadow will not be able to hold on, and the Marine executives will definitely end up fighting. Yes, this is the best opportunity, and they seem to be very interested in Xia En. Beckman also nodded slowly. Those who are not strong enough will continue to evacuate. This is no longer a battlefield that can be filled by the number of people. Whitebeard naturally understood and spoke decisively to Marco and others. Mori can quickly take away some people, so let's prepare for action. Long also stood up and scanned the battlefield, waiting for the people who came out of Impel Down to start attacking Xia En. The Blood Shadow fruit is really terrifying in Xia En's hands. If there is a chance, he would also like to find an opportunity to attack Xia En. But this time, Blackbeard, Red Earl and others have not yet tried to attack Xia En. Golden Lion and Bullet first focused on Roger on the field. But before I settle the score with you, Roger, let's have a fight first. The Golden Lion has a very deep obsession with Roger, otherwise he would not have come to Marineford alone, destroyed most of it and been imprisoned. You can lean back, Roger's opponent is me. But at this time, Bullet glared at the Golden Lion with a dissatisfied look on his face, jumped off the top of the fortress, and fell towards Roger. More than 20 years, he couldn't help but want to fight Roger. Chapter 81 The terrifying old era joins forces. Is Xia En finally unable to bear it? Bullet dived straight down and punched Roger directly. As the momentum forms an airflow, people are already crushed below. Golden Lion snorted coldly. How could Bullet make the first move? Fall faster than Bullet with the Lion Fruit ability. It turned out that they quickly caught up with Bullet, and the two attacked Roger below almost at the same time. One is a fist, the other is a knife on the foot. God avoids. There was a flash of red light in Roger's eyes, he grinned, and his backhand was a horizontal cut. The black and red sword glow elongated, colliding with the attacks of the two brazenly. In an instant, the conflict between hockey became a flashpoint, the crazy flashing thunder and lightning, and the violent impact even made the avoiding Marine and the pirates unable to withstand it, almost being overturned directly. Shiki. Bullet. As soon as they fought, Roger murmured as if he had noticed something, and his expression was more relaxed. But Golden Lion and Bullet were startled, and immediately became even more excited. You seem to be stronger again, Roger. Bullet could clearly feel how terrifying this beast breath was, and was extremely excited. It's Xia En's resurrection that made your chi even stronger. On the contrary, Golden Lion looked surprised, with strong fighting intent in his eyes. He. However, Roger blocked their attack forcefully, and chuckled lightly, following this two-stage explosion of sword and god avoidance. The gorgeous hockey's slashing attack suddenly increased, and it turned out to be slightly better, and the two men forced back more than 10 pressures. Ha, okay, that's really great. Instead of being annoyed by being repelled, Bullet was delighted. The feeling of being able to fight against an imaginary enemy who has been dead for more than 20 years is indescribable. Bullet can't wait to fight to the end today. But at this moment, there was a dignified shout from Marine's side. Douglas. Bullet. Golden Lion Shiki. You are all lifeless criminals from Impel Down. don't try to jump out and run wild in Marineford. Marine Vice Admiral, Flying Squirrel, Hua Shaoshan and other 3 people jumped out at this time. 102 yelled, drew their weapons and rushed over. After all, Marine is facing too many and too strong enemies at this time. Although they are weak, they can't just sit by and watch. They want to take the opportunity to restrain Bullet. Hey, don't bother me. Bullet turned his head and glared angrily, very annoyed that Marine actually came to interrupt his fight with Roger. So he dodges directly, strikes out with lightning speed, and smashes out with a huge fist that is plated in pitch black. The violent power made it difficult for Flying Squirrels and other powerful Vice Admirals to resist, and they were blown out before they could react in time. Then there were 2 more bangs, and the 3 Vice Admirals were all thrown into the air, hitting the corner of the fortress, clutching the affected part, their eyes trembling. 20 years in Impel Down, he is still so strong. Bullet is a capable person, and they didn't expect that the prisoner who stayed in the dark for so long, not only did not decline in strength, but became stronger inside. This defeats the purpose of their plan to restrain them, and they can't help feeling a sense of powerlessness in their hearts. Including the other soldiers, all of them were taken aback by this scene. They were already shocked enough, but now they were even more frightened, their eyes seemed to have seen a ghost. He developed an amazing body in a cage. Garp saw it clearly, and quickly jumped over to block the Flying Squirrel and the others, and said solemnly. Shichibukai and pirates are all surprised. Naval Headquarters Vice Admiral is not a cat or a dog. This devil's descendant really lives up to its reputation. It seems that it has a fighting spirit against the real devil. Before the live broadcast, which has not been cut off, people all over the world were surprised to see this scene. Heir of the devil, Douglas Bullet. It's really him. The guy who is rumored to be Roger's heir. The chief culprit who destroyed a sea. Too strong. Even Marine Vice Admiral can't block his punch. Bullet's astonishing strength, let the world see clearly that he is another legendary powerhouse. Gee ha ha ha, kid, you can play with Marine slowly, Roger's opponent is me. Seeing this, Golden Lion laughed, quickly took the opportunity to identify Roger as his opponent, volleyed a sword, slash wave, followed Lionfruit's ability to activate, and started a big battle with him. The fuse on the battlefield was ignited, detonating fierce fighting again. If the fortress is destroyed, it can be rebuilt. If the prisoner is rescued, he can be captured again. But this is Marineford, which is located in the center of the world, and these evil pirates are absolutely not allowed to infringe here. All Marines fight. Under the psychological construction of Sengoku, the Marines roared and started a new round of defense and counterattack. Before the prisoners from Impel Down arrived, it was Blood Shadow and Roger who had pushed the pirates back again and again. Now that all the Marines joined the battle, it might not be impossible to overthrow the opponent's forces. And so the real Great War begins. Xia En smiled slightly on the high platform, waved her hand, and the Blood Shadow immediately started to move. The 3 undead Blood Shadows rushed into the enemy group to fight, and continued to wreak havoc in the pirate lineup, unstoppable. The magma exploded with punches, and in an instant it beat the pirate who wanted to rush back to save others, screaming incessantly. What a long-lost war. Ha 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 ha. Facing this scene of destruction, Valdo couldn't stand still, grabbed the long gun picked up by the prisoners, and fired with a bang. Multiply the fruit, solid times. The direct ability to shoot. The bullet will continue to grow in size as it moves in the air, and finally explode in the Marines' camp. The small bullet actually exerted the power of a giant shell. Seeing this, the Flying Squirrel and other Vice Admirals rushed over to fight World Destroyer Waldo. Marine. The enmity of these decades will be brought back today. Waldo's ability exploded, and his moves were heavy. The battle with the 2 Vice Admirals was inextricable. When he came to the cannon, his threat increased sharply. However, on the battlefield Waldo's level of destruction can only be considered average. Far inferior to the 3 undead Blood Shadows that are raging. Don't look around. This is already the biggest and cruelest battlefield in the world. Let's all go together and fight against the world government. The Shemale King Ivankov led the revolutionary soldiers and prisoners in Impel Down, and quickly joined the battlefield to resist the pressure of Marine and Blood Shadow together with the pirate camp. Fortunately, the Shemale King and others are worthy of being detained on the 5th and 6th floors. They are very powerful. Even when Marine and Blood Shadow attacked, they also played a big role. Soon, on Katakuri and Jin's side, a gap suddenly opened. Blood Shadow, is this the Blood Shadow? The Red Earl looked at the Blood Shadow of Sengoku that transformed into a huge golden Buddha, with strong interest in his eyes. He did not go to trouble Sengoku himself, nor did he pay attention to Garp. Instead, he turned into a red shadow from the top of the fortress and appeared in front of Sengoku's Blood Shadow almost instantly. The Red Earl looked at Sengoku's Blood Shadow carefully and was amazed. Not as famous as meeting him, he couldn't help but turn his head and look at Xia En on the platform of the execution platform. He never imagined that a child could master the Blood Shadow that reproduced 100% strength, and could also resurrect Roger. It was a miracle. At this time, Sengoku Blood Shadow, who was attacking the Big Mom pirates, also noticed the watching Red Earl. Xia En was not polite immediately and immediately allowed the Blood Shadow to attack at will. Suddenly, Sengoku Blood Shadow's big hand pushed out, and an astonishing shockwave erupted instantly, forming a half-circle shockwave and attacking the Red Earl. The stone floor was directly shattered by the shockwave and flew away, but the Red Earl only raised his eyes slightly and made a slow move with his hand. An ordinary long sword was sucked directly into the hand, and then he raised his hand to stab. With the movement, Haki first formed a sharp sword light that changed dramatically, and then formed a conical spike and pushed through. The moment it came into contact with the shockwave, a storm of terrifying power suddenly erupted and swept across, sending all the officers and soldiers of the Big Mom pirates and the Beasts pirates flying away. The left side of Crescent Bay where the two of them were was directly turned into a vacuum area. Even Katakuri and Jin were repelled, which shows how terrifying the power of their confrontation was. On the dusty and crumbling ground, Sengoku Blood Shadow and Red Earl stood firmly in place. The Red Earl faced the conventional Sengoku Blood Shadow's conventional moves, but he handled them easily without any change in his expression. This scene also made the eyes of both parties who noticed it in the audience in front of the live broadcast tremble. The Red Earl was as famous as Roger and Whitebeard back then. 18 is the terrifying guy among the great pirates. He is indeed too powerful. That is the shadow of Buddha Sengoku, with 100% strength. How strong is the Red Earl? Definitely not much weaker than Whitebeard, Roger and the others. They are legendary figures. Many people don't know the name of the Red Earl, but when someone mentions it and witnesses it with their own eyes, they understand how powerful it is. And like Bullet, he showed no sign of deterioration after decades in prison, and instead showed frightening strength. Interesting, really interesting. The Red Earl gave an evil smile and repeatedly praised Blood Shadow's power. It really felt like he was fighting against Sengoku, making people feel that the majestic power was coming. At this moment, he became more and more interested in Shaen. How did such a little guy create the Blood Shadow to be so awesome? So in the chaotic battlefield, the Red Earl took the initiative to take action again, fighting Sengoku Blood Shadow, pushing the Blood Shadow to its limit. At this time, the entire battlefield was blooming on all sides. Roger defeated the Golden Lion step by step and was in a hurry. Fortunately, Whitebeard, Redhair and others came to support him. The four emperors, coupled with the legend, were finally able to check and balance the powerful Roger, making him unable to continue supporting everywhere and unleashing his ultimate moves to kill everyone. Monkey D. Dragon also had the time to break through Marine's defense line and launch an attack on the execution platform. He even had Impel Down prisoners joining him on the way to break through, making it much easier. But Marine has also taken action and no longer lets Blood Shadow deal with it alone. Garp stood in front of the dragon again, glaring and complicated at his son. The Monkey Dragon sighed, and the two finally fought, and they were inseparable. Of course, no one knows how much power Garp exerted, and what happened to the Monkey Dragon, but at least 10 powerful kings were missing to attack the execution platform. Blackbeard joined the melee with his newly acquired companions, but he did not dare to approach Roger and Whitebeard at all, and was very afraid. Ha 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 ha. What a Shaen. Even the monster Roger can be resurrected, but that's fine, let's fight, it's best if we all keep fighting. He thought very excitedly, with 850 hidden caves covering a large area, causing a large number of marines to suffer and cry. Basically no marine can solve this weird ability alone. The only way is to stay away from Blackbeard's dark fruit area. This also caused Blackbeard to seem to be attacking Marine very carefully. But in fact, Blackbeard's no one knows about his dirty mind. With Roger present in Blood Shadow, whether it's Father Whitebeard, Kaido, or Big Mom, they may be completely defeated. Shaen, you have to work harder. Thief ha ha ha. Blackbeard chuckled softly, paying attention to the four emperors while he struck fiercely. Whitebeard and the red-haired side, plus the Golden Lion and Roger, did achieve good results, but they were not overwhelming. Such a protracted battle will become more brutal the further back it goes, which is what Blackbeard is looking forward to. On the other hand, Kaido and Big Mom, even after such a long truce, Blood Shadow did not come to cause trouble, and Marine was even less likely to attack them and were hiding in the back to recuperate. However, after such a long time, incidents occurred frequently. With Kaido's body and Big Mom's talent, his injuries improved greatly, and Haki, who was fighting Roger, also recovered. With the new force joining, I was extremely excited to see this. The opportunity is here. This war is far from over. Immediately, no longer waiting, one person transformed into a giant dragon, and the other stepped on the thundercloud and lifted into the sky. Leadfield. Shiki. Bullet. Ha 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 ha, we're coming too. Big Mom's eyes became a little crazy, and he rushed directly into the Marine lineup. Be prepared for destruction. Marineford's disaster is beginning today. During this period, the shining light sword was assembled, and it cut like a laser with one swing, causing a large number of casualties to the Marine soldiers. Yes, without Roger, how many of you can stop us? Kaido even shouted loudly, his eyes flashing. If you don't take revenge on this opportunity, if you don't kill Shaen, you will really be unable to control her in the future. So when Big Mom attacked Marine, Kaido actually sprayed hot breath towards Shaen. An attack like a pillar of fire streaked across the sky. At this time, Aokiji jumped up, the huge iceberg condensed, and collided with the heat breath. In an instant, a large amount of steam rose in the air. The enemy's offensive can obviously be launched directly against Shaen. In addition to Akainu who has taken action below, Kizaru and Pheasant can no longer stand still. Kaido. Aokiji's eyes narrowed and he ran directly towards Kaido.